on the one I just told everyone it would be on. Discord. Right, here we are. So this is the very first point. We missed a few seconds only, and there's a turnover straight away. Glasgow Youth starting on offence, but it's been passed out the side there, and Dan Pritchard brings it in, wearing number 29. Immediately resets, putting it towards the centre. Vic Cook picks up. Back to Meg on the line. Meg looks at the line for Pritchard, but decides instead. Nice little line cut there from Vic Cook, but it's just escaped her hand there. For that continuation cut. We want this to be looser. Glasgow Youth pick up. Has looked down, straight up the sideline. OT straight on the defence. Little pop up the line, but they've not managed to continue that. So we've started off the game already with three mostly unforced turnovers. So a little bit of steady pace starting out, but no steady pace from Meg Pickle. She doesn't know the meaning of the phrase. Straight away, sprinting off, gets it up the line, immediately gives it to Oti, then reset back to Megan, who gives it back to Dan in the centre. Dan looks up, Megan clears out. Dan's got Vic Cook. Vic Cook collects this time, has a look up. KK's free, overhead to KK, gives space for Pritchard straight away with the high release backhand. And I think he would catch that 95 times out of 100, but not on this occasion. So it's our fourth turnover of the first point here. And there was a first throw turnover while I was looking at the tripod. That was so quick. Right. Pritchard straight away with a little underthrow to Pickles. Pickles looks up, decides against KK, then against Vic Cook, and squares it instead to Dan Pritchard. She makes some ground, but Pritchard decides to wait and goes for the high scuba to KK, who collects this time. And Brown put away a slightly messy first point, slightly scrappy, to make it 1-0. So this game, Brown are seeded 7th overall in the tournament, and they are 2nd in their pool of 4, which is A pool. This is the first game against bottom of that pool, which is Glasgow Youth. So expecting this to be a less experienced team, and certainly is a result that Brown would want to come away with. But here we are starting the second point, 1-0 to Brown, with Megan Pickles, Sam Bruce, Dan Renhard, Sam Dowell about to pull, and Fernley Everson on the line. Already this early in the game, some discussion from Glasgow Youth.
But be nice and patient.
Pull from Sam, certainly not brickable, but wasn't collected anyway by Glasgow. So it's going to come in at the back of the end zone. There's just a little discussion on rules, and also, as always with Ravenscraig, there's a football pitch marked out in nice clear paint, but those are not the lines we're using mostly, except the near touchline is the touchline. Anyway, that first throw from the back of the end zone on the open side doesn't make it to its mark, and it's a turnover straight away. Fernley Everson to pick up. Fernley picks up Meg again, making herself free with a great lateral cut, but she needs to save some of that pace, even though it's mostly pretty much bottomless with Meg. And a scuba from Dowell is just beyond the pitch there. So Sam just putting it out of range. I mean, I'm sure they'll settle into this game. It doesn't look like it's going to be one that's... yeah, okay, so there's another turnover there. I'm sure they'll settle into this game, obviously, early on, but seems to me they don't need to be throwing scubas or anything fancy much, to be honest. Anything low percentage when it comes. Speaking of which, enormous full-length hammer to Sam, although it's perfectly good. Nice weight to it, and Sam collects with 1 foot in the air over the end zone line. Making it Brown 2, Glasgow Youth 0.
I thought that what they were going to do is they were and they were just going to make it 1-0. And so I was really expecting to be on the bus and then they would like get off the next stop. And I was like...
So... 2-0 Glasgow Youth again taking a pause to talk about what they're doing. I think probably from the name of the team and their seeding, a less experienced team, so a little bit more thought going in. But we start off here, KK pulling, he's joined to the line by Dan Pritchard, Ola Tenney, Luke Wood and Vic Cook. There's certainly match marking here. and looked like a fairly square at first in that case, but anyway, a little straight throw goes there to pop out for a bit of space, and a big high disc. Dan Pritchard could bring it down, but he doesn't. Instead, it's very well gathered by the hoodie wearing, can't see his number, of Glasgow Youth. So they're bringing a point back there to make it 2-1. Get into them, says Eric Fitton. Yeah, that's what we like to hear. 2-1 so far. We had a scrappy first point, and we also had a couple of turnovers in the second point. But here we are with 2-1. I think Brown just need to settle, and they'll see this game through all right. I hope the stream quality is okay. If it's not, it's just down to the signal in here, I'm afraid. I tried the Wi-Fi and it wouldn't let me stream at all. So. Glasgow Youth pull to Vic Cook receiving, gives it straight to the centre. Dan Pritchard. Pritchard picks up just behind the brick mark. Has a look up straight over the inside out under throw to Sam Bruce, gaining some yards. 15 yards there. She gives it on the open side to Vic Cook, then goes straight up the line. Vic Cook chooses not to give it to her instead. Hammers it square to Dan Pritchard, but it makes its mark. Another little IO throw, exactly like he did at the beginning, and then a pop pass from Sam Bruce receiving that to Vic Cook to make it 3-1. No need for anything too fancy, I think, is probably the order that's going to be on the line here. Something of some points required to warm up, probably for both teams here. But Brown keen to get playing. Glasgow still working out some things. Megan Pickles pulls it, joined by KK, Dowell, Sam Bruce and Vic Cook on the line. They slow down that first throw, and it's gathered by Meg Pickles, who manages to dribble it a couple of yards, unintentionally of course, and then receives it immediately. She pops it to KK, makes the immediate cut up the line, and managed to get separation on her mark, even though I'm sure it was a full pace cut. But KK, nice little lead pass, simple ultimate. 4-1. It's been a bit of a funny start to this tournament for us. We were told yesterday this might be called off, and of course we got a 3-hour drive, so we all set off this morning not knowing whether the tournament was actually going to be on. But fortunately, as you can see, the building still has a roof in the wake of Storm Yoen. And so we get into our first game, 4-1, and the pull goes straight through, not collected, but certainly not brickable, so it starts at the back of the end zone from Dan Pritchard's pull, and it is Dan Pritchard currently marking there on that line. They managed to get it out, but that high pressure there, Josh Clark's man, still in the end zone, but they managed to get it out the line, but Meg Pickles has the pace to intercept that disc up the line. Sorry for the slow camera work. So it's Dan Pritchard's going to pick this one up. That really good pressure from Brown, starting out with a good pull, bringing them right at the back and then getting right in their faces. A flick there from Pritchard, gives it to Meg and then receives it back up the line with what I think was a break backhand and a knife to Josh Clark, who's unmarked at the back of the end zone. Very simple goal. 5-1. You'll have to bear with me while I sort of learn how to use the tripod a little bit. Not that I don't know how to use a tripod, but that it's less intuitive to point the camera where you're looking than it is when you're holding it in your hands. So on this line, start our 7th point, we have Sam Bruce, Sam Dowell, Luke Wood, KK and Vic Cook. And they start with the disc at the front of their end zone. It's a good pull. Nice pressure and trap there. It goes around. Oh, great pressure from Sam Bruce. Didn't actually get a hand to it. Didn't need to. They're forcing those tighter discs than they would want to be throwing for those safe resets. And after being squared to Luke Wood, the high scuba comes down for the long arm of Christopher Kurzweil, who's been gathering those a couple of times this game. So these are 30-minute matches at this weekend with a 7-minute break in between. The Brown second team are playing in the next game, so that will start at 11:37. All of the original timings were pushed back by an hour because of the concern over possible closure of the facility after Storm Erwin. But despite witnessing crashes and slippy roads on the way here, all of the Browns vehicles have made it, I believe. Another good pull, and again not collected, so again it comes in right at the back. Glasgow youth not been very confident in bringing these pulls down, and that's been to their disadvantage really. They do manage to get a couple of throws out, but they're right on the sideline there with that flick force, so not much space. And go with a high break throw, which Brown will be a bit annoyed that got out. But anyway, it is collected, and now they're at the front of our end zone. And a little high push going in. There was a hand to it, and I think it might have been Brucey's hand, so she'll be disappointed not to have got a hand block there. As the disc was deflected and wobbling out of that front corner of the end zone, it was still collected by Glasgow to make it 6-2. So women's point about to start here with Vic Cook, Sam Dowell, Dan Pritchard, Megan Pickles and Zoe Davis on the line. Excellent news on the touchline is that Ola has found her yellow hat, which she was missing earlier. So there was a minor panic, but we're back in business now. Dan Pritchard collects the pull, gives it to Megan in the middle. Megan with the open throw to Sam Dowell. Dan Pritchard makes a long cut, but he doesn't receive it. Does the 7 cut to look back on the other side, but Sam's already reset to Megan in the middle. Megan gives it on the open side to Dan Pritchard. Dan Pritchard looks at the line and gives a high break, blady flick, but Sam's marked by a taller man, and he was there anyway. That throw goes out on the open side of an immediate line cut, but Sam's all over it, using his pace to mark out. So they're moving it back and forth on this line, looking to buy some yards, and the high disc one up here, but it will be contested. Oh, it was nearly gathered. Despite that, was nearly gathered. There were 2 Glasgow players under it. There were 2 Brown players as well. Glasgow had the height, and for a moment it looked like they were the disc was going to make its way all the way through for a knee-height catch, but just escaped their fingers as well. Vic Cook to Sam Dowell up the line. Dowell clears out because Megan's already made that line cut, and straight cuts up the line there to receive for the Browns' 7th goal. Score 7-2.
On the middle of the roundabout. Yes, on the middle. We just saw the light that was on it.
Right. We counted 5 car crashes. That's right. Not me, but that guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes, here we go.
Again, right at the back of the end zone, starting out. There's been so many of those good pulls from the Brown that are not collected by Glasgow, and putting them at a disadvantage in that starting position. However, we can see, although it's been collected there, a stall out has been called. Good hand signals from the Brown. It's uncontested, which means Brown are going to start with possession at the front of the end zone there. So disc dead on the ground, should really be tapped in to make the game live, which it has been, so now everyone can move. Looks like KK is going to go and pick up the disc. They've set Josh in the end zone as the solo target in the end zone, and the other 3 out of it. So expecting an overhead to Josh, or just to pop up the line. We'll see, whichever he fancies most. And indeed, he's just done his man in either direction and done that. As long as Glasgow don't put a second man on that there, almost no matter the markup, it's going to be a difficult one to defend. Josh showing how it's done with a very serious cut towards this sideline. It's a real option. It was absolutely a goal if the defender hadn't followed it, so you had to follow it. And Josh just turned around. He's always going to turn around faster, and collected on the other side. So that'll be half with 8-2 on the scoreboard. Not actually sure what the rules are for half here, but. Right. I was trying to dismiss a really annoying message taking up half my screen telling me, welcome to live chat. You know, to read the community guidelines. I don't care. I'm trying to control this bloody thing. YouTube, honestly, how stupid is that? I can't dismiss it. I can't swipe it away. So apologies for that. I'm just getting somewhat in the way. Okay, that was enough, please. Thank you. So 8-2. This time, first time this game, I think Glasgow have beaten Brown to having a hand in the air to start the point. So far they've had fairly slow starts. Dan Pritchard with a pull to the back of the end zone, but this time Glasgow do collect it. So straight away they're 10 yards to the good of their usual, and with another 180 degrees of options. They give it on the open side, or possibly not actually. But either way, it actually looks like quite a straight up force. But a high throw there goes to Luke's match. Glasgow looking for options in the end zone, but in the end he resets with some good defence. Glasgow trying to find some good options. In the end, it goes up with a scoop that was perhaps slightly disappointing for the thrower, and Vic Cook there to contest it was not able to be brought down safely. Dan Pritchard under to Luke Wood. Luke will consider the pop back but didn't give it. Instead gives it to Meg, who's very free. Meg looks at Fernley, gives it to Fernley. Fernley's long hands give it, and then Pritchard, a little shuffle of the hip, sends his man the wrong way, and then that's an easy flick throw there for Fernley to complete to Dan Pritchard.
I can't be honest.
Wait, this is 20 last 2 seconds.
Right, apologies for that, just doing some adjustment. So a pull from Brown starts us off on our 12th point, but KK's got right in there with a quick interception, gives it over to Dowell, but not sure that was in. His feet were good, his toe was close. Oh, really hard to say. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to be able to check that. It was very close. There were millimetres in it, and not sure on the timing either. Either way, out has been called, and that's the way that it's gone, which means that Glasgow Youth pick it up on the front of their end zone. Big swing over to KK, to KK's man. This time KK does not quite intercept. And they try and get it out. This big force pressure, Olateni there, making it difficult, but they get it up the line, and now they are on that sideline, but manage to square it. And as it happens in the end, just that open throw just wasn't completed. It was to chest, I think, but just bounced away. Brown pick up the disc in the hands of Zoe Davis. God damn it. Sorry. Oh, unfortunate there. So KK giving that high throw over to look for Oti, but Oti, despite great commitment going to ground, doesn't quite manage to gather. Sam putting good pressure on that dump. They managed to keep the disc, but they're being pushed back. A high disc there, and Zoe contesting, getting a hand to it, and getting that D. Really, really good D there from Zoe. She was close on her match. I'm not sure whether I'm just being a bit dense with what the force is, or whether it is pretty much a straight up force. I couldn't tell you whether that was an open side or break side throw. Sorry. Zoe gives it long, looking for KK, but KK is well covered. In fact, I think KK was very surprised that went up. He had already stopped the cut, and his man was more or less just stood in the end zone. Nonetheless, he was close to it, and the Glasgow player had to make sure. Glasgow pick up. The score is 9-2 to the Brown. Up the line, does not manage to find the hands of the intended receiver, number 4, and so Sam Dowell is going to pick up on the sideline for the Brown. Low throw there to Sam Bruce, who looks at KK. They both have an unspoken conversation about what they want each other to do, but they don't agree. And in the end, it's reset to Dowell, who then gives a hammer to KK at the far corner, and that is a nice completion there for the Brown, making it 10-2.
I know the crazy look, and I can just take a step back.
So to start this, that'll be 10-2, just changing now. Start this 13th point. We are going to have Vic Cook pulling, Fernley Everson, OT, Dan Renhard, and Megan Pickles for the Brown. And pull to the front of the end zone from Vic Cook. They managed to get a quick throw off. Brown so far between their pulls and their defense have managed to make it difficult for them to even get that first throw, but on this occasion they do. They reset back to the middle and then straight away give a high throw. I think that's going to be a goal, and Dan Renhard will be a bit disappointed for that one to got out. It's one of those slightly unconventional, slightly unexpected throws straight down the middle of the pitch. Dan Renhard possibly caught a little unawares by it, and it does, despite good pressure, float into their hands for their third goal, making it 10-3 to the Brown. Starting this point for the Brown. Josh Clark, Luke Wood, Sam Bruce, Dan Pritchard and Vic Cook. And there's the pull. It's going to be collected by Vic Cook in the end zone. It's a good pull. Josh Clark goes straight away and receives it. Good yards. It's up. Vic possibly would have been free, but Sam Bruce is freer and also in the end zone, making the second completion a goal. Certainly looked like a goal from here. I think most people called it a goal. There was a chap on that sideline who's called, I think, not in. Surely can't have called out, and that seems to have been accepted. So it's gone there, and despite some close hands, Luke Wood snatches Sam Bruce's little pop pass, almost apologetic little pass, and Luke catches for 11-3 to Brown 1. Three men on the line for this one, and those men will be Fernley Everson, Dan Pritchard and KK, joined by OT and Zoe Davis, with Dan Pritchard to pull. Actually changed in KK pull. High backhand, but was not what he was hoping for. It's a brick. It just sailed a bit too high, a bit too long, and so Fernley Everson starts as the force, and this time it's a clear flick force, goes under pretty much straight down, but it's intercepted, and Dan Pritchard gives straight away to Fernley. Fernley pops it sideways to Zoe. Zoe has a look, she's still having a look, but decides to reset to Fernley. She goes up the line, but it's not going to be free. KK is completely poached. Reset through that, gets it to Zoe again at the front of the end zone, back to KK. I mean, Brown, they're not pressured for time, so as long as KK is unmarked, they really don't need to wear themselves out on this. KK to Zoe. Okay, well, the throw from Zoe is intercepted, unfortunately. Travel was called, which is interesting. I thought that he did have the right catch in there to bring it, but perhaps not. Pritchard easily intercepts that, gives us a little disc to OT, which is always going to be difficult. I don't think she wanted that. And it's intercepted, and it goes back. Slightly scrappier later game, although it was a scrappy early game as well. There was some a little bit more consistency in the middle of the game, but it's never really been in doubt result-wise. Because Glasgow, I think, have struggled a bit at various times, and especially with just reliable completions, partly thanks to a lot of defensive pressure from Brown. Anyway, another turnover, and Dan Pritchard picks up the front of the end zone, resets to KK, then gives long to Pritchard, who is going to keep it in. Well done. And OT's on the line, but he considers it. I mean, Fernley's completely unmarked, and despite great effort from the force, giving a layout there, looking for the point block, it does manage to sneak through. It's a well-placed throw by Dan Pritchard to Fernley. Not sure where the other defender on that one was, which makes it 12-3. Did I miss a count? No. 12-3. To the Brown. If you're just joining us, this is the first game of the day, first pool game, and Brown, who are second in their pool, seeded 7th overall, are playing bottom of the pool Glasgow Youth. The score is 12-3. Megan Pickles pulls, joined on the line by Sam Dow, Vic Cook, Dan Renhard and Sam Bruce. Good pull, they do manage to centre and then give an open under, but that little pop wasn't in front of the man. In fact, it was definitely behind the man, and he didn't quite manage to gather it, which means an unforced turnover there with Sam Dow picking up, gives it straight up the line to Dan Renhard, who was closely marked, but his speed had still given him a couple of yards, and that's all he needed with a well-placed pass up the line from Sam Dow to convert for 13-3. And that, judging by the fact everyone's shaking hands and by the fact I know the rules, is the cap. So that's the end of the first game, 13-3 to Brown 1. Thank you for joining. I'm going to try and stream what I can today. The next game will be Brown 2, not sure who we're playing, and that will be in about 10 minutes, so 11:37 is the official time for that. I'll try and set up an event. I did originally set up an event for this one, but then YouTube knocked me about and I ended up having to just do it impromptu. So I'll have to sort that out later. Right, thank you for joining. Hopefully we'll be online soon.